Welcome to CEO Insights. I'm Marilyn de Guzman with investingnews.com. My guest is David Breeze, Managing Director and Executive Chairman of BPH Energy, an Australia-based diversified investment company with significant interest in oil and gas and biotechnology. Good to have you, David.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today.
Yeah, so I want to talk about you've made some recent announcements, and one of them is the appointment of an environmental management service company for the Sea Blue 1 exploration well. Could you talk about sort of the significance of this undertaking and why that's an important undertaking for the project?
Indeed. We've been going through a process of preparing for the drilling of the Sea Blue 1 well, which is in the area immediately off Newcastle, 26 kilometres out to sea. It's important because East Australia is in the grip of an energy crisis, and there is a clear, demonstrated and now accepted shortage of gas, and that's impacting the energy supply into Eastern Australia even as we speak. Now, what the government is looking for and what manufacturing groups are looking for, and in particular, of course, there are 5 million homes across Australia that use gas for their domestic purposes for heating and cooking. They need that gas in the near term and right out to 2050. And in fact, our Australian energy regulator accepts that gas will be an important part of the energy transition in order to support when renewable energy is not available. Now, in terms of the appointment, whilst we are waiting for the federal government to grant us the suspension and extension to enable the drilling, that's a suspension and extension of the permit terms to enable us to proceed to drilling. We've been going through a process of long lead items, preparation, planning, and of course our environmental plan, and we prepared a 660-page environmental plan. However, because of the delays caused by the recent government, we've now had to go back and to reassess exactly how to proceed with that environmental plan, and in particular for the consulting with the community and relevant persons, so that we ensure that we are most up to date in our compliance with the environmental regulatory framework. So Claros has been appointed to assist us in that process, and it's a very important step for us to be able to get ready to drill. Of course, there are now more rigs coming into Australia in this year than there have been in the last 3 years, and in particular the last 2 years. And of course, what we want to be able to do is to drill at the earliest possible time frame so that we can prove up the resource. And of course, offshore Sydney, we have a 6 TCF prospective recoverable resource. And in context, that's as much gas potentially as has been utilised out of the Bass Strait gas fields over the last 60 years. And they, of course, are now in the midst of a 50% reduction in their output capacity, and that's central to the gas shortage on East Coast Australia.
So I guess maybe for the benefit of some of our investor viewers that are not familiar with how the process that's going through with the PEP 11 license application, could you provide an update on that, especially in light of the, as you mentioned, the proposed seabed mining and exploration bill going on, legislation that is happening there, and how that's going to impact, or how is it impacting the progress of that PEP 11 application?
So the legislation that you refer to is legislation that was brought into the New South Wales Parliament. It, however, was only effective out to the 3 mile limit. As we have said in our releases to the stock exchange, and as was indicated by the independent constitutional law experts that gave evidence to the New South Wales Government Parliamentary Committee, there are questions, and we believe that the legislation is open to challenge. However, it does not impact areas outside the 3 mile limit, and it may well be in breach of, I think it's Section 190 of the Constitution.
Right. So the other announcement that you recently made is the $1 million capital raise. How could you talk about more about this undertaking, and how are these funds going to be used?
So, as we indicated in the documents that were lodged with the stock exchange, the funds raised will be used both for our hydrocarbon investments and as well for funding for our Cortical Dynamics anesthesia monitoring device investment area. And just as we have with previous fundraisings, and that fundraising, by the way, is now completed and the shares issued, those funds will be utilised in the forthcoming periods for the development, investment and assistance into those programs.
So what other catalysts, or what should the investor community be expecting from the company now moving forward, or in the short term?
So in 3 separate areas, and of course we also have the clean hydrogen technology investment, as well as Cortical and of course PEP11. So the next step that we're waiting for as a catalyst for a value transaction point is the approval by the Federal Minister for Industry of the suspension and extension of our permit in PEP11. And we understand, or we are aware, that NOPTA, who is the regulatory authority, made a recommendation to the government in October of last year, and we're currently waiting for that recommendation to be implemented. In the cortical side, and I can give you more detail on that in a moment if you wish, Cortical already is registered in the FDA, in Korea, in Europe and in Australia, and it is currently going through a next phase development. In other words, a Model 2 enhancement of all of the components, that's software, hardware, firmware, with a new screen, DAM, and sensors. And we'll be looking, in terms of the value inflection point, to have those elements of technical advancement registered as and accepted by the regulatory authorities as upgrades for that technology. On the clean hydrogen, of course, as we've announced, we've been going through a 2-year process of proving up and expanding the production capacity of that technology, which takes methane gas and converts it into hydrogen and carbon. And that process is now at the stage where we're looking to go into full-scale commercial production as the next step, and we're going through a capital raising process for the purposes of that step in as well.
Mm-hmm. So for the benefit of our audience, I think Cortical is your investment in the biotechnology sector. Could you provide a little bit more sort of an overview of that investment and why that's a compelling investment for the company?
I certainly can do that. Cortical is a device that assists the anaesthetist to keep the patient optimally anaesthetized during the course of surgery. And of course, there are a a significant unmet need for a technology that can do that, as well as a significant unmet need in the anaesthetics community to be able to, again, optimally and not only just anaesthetize the patient, but to administer the appropriate dose of analgesia. And that's the next step in the technology. Of course, we already have an agreement which has been announced with Philips in relation to the alliance of our technology into the Philips screens, which are in over 50% of the operating theatres around the world. And of course, what I've just described about the technology upgrades are designed to assist us to move into commercial sales for the anaesthesia monitoring area. So it's really a medtech device, not a biotechnology area.
Yeah. Well, thanks, David, for taking the time to join me today and updating us on the developments of the company.
Not at all. That's appreciated. Thank you.
And thanks, everyone, for watching. Join us again next time for another edition of CEO Insights. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates and interviews. See you next time.